Gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. Today's project is a quick little build. A mate of mine's son is farming out in the Kalahari and he wanted a little bull whip. So I said no problem, let's make a one. This will be the easiest whip you'll ever build. Not nearly as fancy as some of those you see that the guys braid on the internet, but nonetheless it works. This is the thing, this whip's going to be a working tool, not something to show off to your mates. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, so tools, you need something to measure with. I've got a piece of wood block, it's just a scrap block to cut on, cigarette lighter, a Stanley knife. This is just a deburring tool, but you can get away with a file as well. Scissors, kitchen scissors, a file, and then I've got two 8-inch pieces of 20mm, so it's what, 3/4 inch electrical conduit, and that'll be our handle. So this is basically what you're going to need, and then a boatload of polypropylene ski rope. We'll go through the sizes as we go along. Okay, so this is the measurements we'll be using. You can screen print or pause or whatever you want to do with it. This is what I'll be using. I'm not sure if it's going to work out 100%, but we'll change it on the fly if needed. Right, so we're starting off with a 2mm piece of 2mm diameter polypropylene rope, and we are going to use 16 inches thereof. So yes, I do like old school, so at least if you're making a modern whip, at least use some old school tools. So cut the first section 16 inches long and melt the ends together to keep it from fraying out. There we go, making it nice and smooth. Make sure that when you melt the ends that there's no significant bulge in there, because that'll translate into your whip later on. So now that we've got a 16-inch portion, next up we will be using 5mm diameter rope. Once again, just melt the edges so you don't get any fraying of it. Once again, making sure that it's nice and smooth. On a windless day it'll be nice to do this outside, but today is August and the wind's quite bad, so you see there I made the first mistake. Do not pre-cut the lengths of rope, and you'll see why as we're carrying on. So we're going to keep this portion open and start feeding this one into the back. You'll see as we go along. If you pre-cut the rope, you will not get the lengths that you're looking for. So now what we can do is we can feed this one in here. Come on. And what I do is I just walk it along, grabbing it on this side, then pulling it back over. Now once you are over the last point, I think I've gone a bit too far here. I think I've actually gone way too far here. No, just a little bit. There we go. So now that we've got it all on the end here, we can melt both of them together. This will be the back end of the whip. Once we've got that one done, we need the next one would be 20 inches long. So once again, take our scale, 19, 20, and we cut it off there, holding it close together, and once again melting the edges. There we go. Yeah. This will now start becoming the front end of your whip. So the third one will once again be a 5mm diameter, and that's going to be 24.5 inches long. So just start feeding it in. correct now, you will feel the, oh, there we go. Yep. This one I'm going to let run over a bit. There we go. So now you can feel there's the one that we've just done. Cut it off right at that point and melt the edges together so it all forms one. And still get off a little bit here, but let's see. There we go. Alright, and now you start drawing it back, because the tighter you've got this, the stiffer your whip will be. Once you're at that point, we will now measure this 24.5 inches. 24.5 inches will be right over there. Cut it off. And wash, rinse, repeat. Now the fourth one will be 5mm again, and that's going to be up to 29 inches. But let's first get it all string through again. What I'm going to do is, as it becomes thicker, it actually becomes more difficult to melt the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here with a new melt, a little bit farther from the original. I think this one is actually going to melt over onto the old one again. This one will still make work on the old one. The next one will start off afresh. Go. Alright, so this one needs to be, what are we now? Previous one was 24.5, so this one's going to be 29. So there's 26, 7, 8, and 9. There we go. And now the next one should be 33 inches and 5mm rope once again. I think we're getting close to the edge of not using 5mm and going up to the next size, but we'll see. See if we can still get this one on. Going onto this one as well. Should be okay. And as you can see now, the rope is starting to look a bit frayed because the weave is getting almost perpendicular to the actual whip. So I think next up we'll be using the 7mm rope, just making sure that we pull this as tight as we can. Now this charge your hand. If you're going to build a couple of them in a day, make sure you've got a pair of leather gloves or something, otherwise your hands will not make it. There we go. Okay, so this one should be 33 inches, so I'm going to get 27, 28, 9, 30, 31, 32, 33. There we go, 33 inches. And once again, just melt the edges, making sure that it's nice and smooth. Now next up we'll be using our 5mm rope. This one's going to be black, so just start weaving it in. Now you'll see the green still sticking through there. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. See the green sticks still sticking through. So make sure that you've got at least 3 layers in the color that you want at the end of the day. Otherwise it's going to be this funky little color shift thing, which might even not be bad. Phew, that way inclined. We will have it black at the end of the day. Okay, so I'm going to cut it off, not right hard up against it, so we can start a new melt, if I can call it that. Melt this one together on its own, because the other one is getting way too big to be able to get hot enough everywhere where it should be in order to make it decent. You see at the end when we finish it off, it's not going to look bad at all. There we go. And now we just pull it back, making sure that we take out as much of the slack as we can. Right, and this one should be 37 inches. So we're sitting on 25. Now what I'm going to do is measure up to the old one, not the new one, otherwise it's going to become shorter and shorter. So I'm going to go 25 and then 30, 35 and 6 and 7. Okay, 37 inches. Wash, rinse, repeat. Melt the edge together again. And back in. So this will be the second 7mm one. Now you'll see as you start pulling it over, it starts battling. So that tells you you are close to the end of using this size rope. So the next one we will be moving over to 10mm rope. Now as the rope expands as you pull it over, it actually becomes shorter, and that's why I say don't cut it, pre-cut your ropes, because you're just going to make a hash of it. It's going to end up way too short. Yeah. Melt it back down onto the other one. Here we go. And pull it back again. Now this one we're going to cut at 42 inches. So I'm going to go 20, 40 and 1 and 2. A little bit longer. There we go. Let's just clean up our workspace a bit. Now we're moving over to 10mm rope. Just cut the end off. And once again, just start feeding it in from the end. Now you see, now our whip is getting some girth to it. Now when you get to this point, you'll probably be getting close to where we want to be. What I'm going to do is I am going to use my map gas to burn this, because it's just becoming way too thick. Here we go. Not really what I wanted, but it's okay. It'll work. Okay. So this one we are going to make 46 inches. We're gonna go 20, 40 and 6. There we go, one extra, 47. And this all now we need to do is we take our little piece of conduit that we use for a handle, take a file and make sure you take off all the sharp edges. on both sides. And once you got the edges round off, you just deburr the inner edge as well, to just make it so that it doesn't chow your whip once it's done. Make sure that's all nice and smooth. And now we need to start testing the thickness of our whip. So we start from the thin end and feed it through the pipe. And you'll see we are basically, I think the next one's going to be it. I haven't pulled this one taut tight yet, so it'll still flow in there. I think so. Let's try. Let's do it proper. There we go. Let's try it again. See this, so it's still a bit loose, so I think the next one, you see it's still a bit loose, so I think the next one will be the money shot. So, wash, rinse, repeat. This will probably be the last 10, so we won't be using the 12mm rope. This will be the last one, because I think I'm going to battle to get this over the end in any case. So let's see what happens. As you can see now, it's becoming really difficult to get it over. So I'm going to fight this off camera and I'll bring you back. I think we're done with this one. Okay, so we've got it over here. I'm just going to cut this one off with the, you see this one has slipped a bit. So what I'm going to do is try and twist them all together and take the map and see what we can get to. Yeah. Okay. We'll be cutting off that last section there. It's a bit of a bad one. It didn't come out 100% as planned. The more you do it, the better it gets. So now I'm gonna feed back everything that I can. If you like put a bit of twist in the rope, it tends to feed and stiffen out. Get as much as the slack out as we can. Go. And now we need 50 inches of length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take somewhere about there, 20, 40 and 10 inches, which is there. And now something's not making sense. So I need 60. This one's going to be a bit longer. 50 and 60. Okay, right. This one's going to be a bit longer. I was hoping for 50, so let's get it to 60. And now this one we need to melt really nice and smooth and flat, because this is the edge of our whip now. Okay, so once we get to that point, we take our wood block and our Stanley knife, sharp blade, and we cut through all of the rope. Okay, so what we're going to do now that we've got that portion there, we pull it back till there's about 1/4 of an inch sticking, between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch sticking out. And now we just start heating it up so the whole thing melts together. You have to melt it so that the edge cannot pull out of the hand, the whip cannot pull out of the handle. So try again. There we go. Now I'm just going to keep it so that it cools off a bit. Okay, and there we have it. Our whip is done. Now we just need to make the little clapper in the front. So let's make our, as we call it in Afrikaans, voorslag. Okay, so for the fall of this whip we're gonna use the 5mm diameter rope again. I'm gonna cut off 20 inches and melt both ends together. Well, not together, but just to make it neat. This is gonna be where the popper goes onto, and the other one is gonna be where the actual whip goes onto. So once again, just melt them together. And for the point of the fall, you need to really have it sort of really smooth. This is because that's the one that's going to take a lot of hammering. So make sure that that one has got no places to catch. Something like that. There we go. Should be okay. And then we just melt the other end together as well. Okay, so now we will measure 2 inches and fold it back and make a little loop in the fold itself. Come on. Now the loop that you're making, you can make it fairly tight. Should be just enough to fit over the whip again. And there we've got our fold. Now we've got to fix that to our whip. So if we take the point of our whip, just fold it over, and now we're going to go back about 3 inches. 1, 2, 3. And we are going to feed it right through from the one side to the other. Now make sure that you don't go through the middle of one of these pockets of strands. Just makes it a bit neater. Alright, so here we go. Nice and tight. And where your loop, where you fit in that loop, around about there, you go through once more. It leaves you about 1.25 inches from the edge of the whip itself. Now you can take a screwdriver or ballpoint pen. I don't know what I did with my ballpoint pen since yesterday. And once again, make sure that we do not catch on one of the strand pockets. Nice thing about it, you can make a big hole, it just closes up again. So there we go. And now that you've got that fed through, now you need to make a hole in the fall itself, because what we're going to do is we are going to feed the point of the whip into the fall to get a nice smooth flat transition. This is probably one of the most difficult parts of it. There we go. Come on. There we go. So as you can see there, feed the edge of your whip, the final point of your whip, into the fall. Now once you pull that tight, you'll see that you've got a nice flat transition between your whip and your fall, and that's what you want. And there we go. Now we need to put our popper on. So for the popper or clapper or whatever you want to call it, we are going to, going to use the 2mm rope again. Just fill out. I'd say about 20 inches again. Should be more than enough. Going to replace this. The clapper you will be replacing every so often. So keep a roll of this on hand. Or what you can do is, if you're really into it, make a couple and keep them somewhere where you can easily get to them. Right, so now we just melt one of the ends of the rope. And now we've got to feed this into our into the fall. So what we do is we make we open up the rope on the fall as close to the knot as you can. And you feed the clapper in there, down, I'd say down about 2 inches or so. Where are we now? And let it come out somewhere. I think this one is actually a little bit short. No, it'll work. It'll work. Okay, so now that you've got it fed through, turn it around the fall twice and just feed it back into the hole that you just came out of. Come on. And you feed it back up to right up, hard up against where you melted the fall shut, and pull it tight. And there we go. And there you've got a clapper put onto your whip. So, but now we still need to do the edge. So what I'm going to do is a 1, 2, I'd say about 3 inches. Let's make it 4 inches from the edge. You take the 2mm rope and you separate the 3 strands. It's weird, it looks like it's only got 2, but it's actually got 3 strands. Take them apart. Alright, what you do now is take one strand. What I'm going to do is I am going to melt the 3 strands together just for ease of working. We will cut them off again. Separate the 3 just like that, so that they sit together. Right, now that we've got that, you take one strand and you tie it around the other 2. But when you do the knot, make sure that the tag end is showing in the direction of the point of the clapper. And cinch it up tight. There we go. And now we take the second one and we do the same over the other 2. And as you cinch down this knot, make sure that you get it as close to the previous knot as possible. Preferably not on it, you want it just off of it so that it stays nice and flat, maybe even a 1/8 of an inch between the 2. And you'll see now the one that's left over is the longer point of the 3. So they're going to have to fight to get hold of him. And we do the same with it. Run it over and tie it back in that the tag end shows towards the front of the whip. And cinch it down. This just prevents the fray from running back up to the onto the clapper itself. So once you've got that, pull them nice and tight. Make sure that they're nice and flat, dressed up, and cut off the tagger. Here those ends that we burn together. And there we have our whip complete. So let's go and test it. So there we have our whip. Guys, if you made it thus far, I really appreciate. Please rate, comment, subscribe. This will be the easiest whip you'll ever build. And it'll probably last the longest. But for that, I thank you for watching. And as always, stay safe.